to give you a little bit about ourselves, we meet every other week. We typically organize events that are about data and using data for business purposes. We're all about how to use data to create value, whether it's data itself, data science, information you get out of data, anything related to data. We have Tom here, Kim, and me, myself. We organize this meetup every other week, as I said. We'd love to have you back. Today, we have Lloyd, which is a very successful entrepreneur. I think you started from Vancouver. Lloyd started a couple of companies, most recently Boast.AI, which raised $123 million recently. He is the co-founder of Traction Conference, one of the best conferences you can go in North America, with tactical information. And more than that, a very helpful human being, helping entrepreneurs all the time as much as possible. Lloyd is gonna tell us a lot about how they use data to make their processes more data-driven. Specifically, he's gonna tell us about how to use data to find your ideal customers, how to target them, how to find better retention and such, make your products sticky. So we're really, really honored to have Lloyd today. And so that you know, before you leave at the end of the session, I thought we make the announcements at the beginning. Boast.AI is hiring crazy today. So feel free to go to their website and check out the roles and see if you're interested. And of course, next session is on March 11th. We're gonna have Michael from Shopify, and he's gonna tell us about retention and how they use data science to improve their retention. And with that said, I pass it to Lloyd. Maybe Lloyd can tell us first that why did they raise $123 million exactly to make it easy to remember? What was the reason behind the number? And I pass it to you, Lloyd. And feel free to share your screen if you have.
My video is available or no?
Your video is, yes.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna share some slides. But like before we jump into everything, I see like about like 13 or so people here. Would love to get a sense of what stage of company are you guys in the audience, and so I can tailor the conversation. I have slides, but really it's like a sort of business fundamental slides that it was put together as more a reminder for me as I've gone through a few failures here. But yeah, what is a stage of company people are at? Maybe drop it in the chat, or yeah, drop it in the chat, or maybe Hamid or Tom or Kim can tell me.
Yeah, we'll bring those up for you, Lloyd, no problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that we clarify, everyone, feel free to ask questions, or you drop your questions in the chat and we ask it for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, feel free to interrupt me, drop things in the chat, and I'll take them as we go along. So Lloyd here, co-founder at Boast.AI. So my background quickly: Boast.AI bootstrapped to 8 figures in revenue, raised 123 million, a combination of equity and debt, and I'll talk about why a little bit. And then been a part of 3 venture-backed companies. AL, TicketLeap were acquired. I ran product at AL. I was running marketing and sales at TicketLeap. Automatically, it was a company I founded with my same co-founder at Boast. It went through an accelerator, Alchemist. I mean, it got into an accelerator, but we shuttered that. Then I was a part of Speakeasy, running product growth, pretty much running the company, funded by Bessemer and Salesforce. We raised 6 million seed, and that failed. We shuttered it down. And Boast, we've bootstrapped for the most, not for the most, but we have. And I can just walk you through a journey and my learnings as a company. In terms of why we raise so much money is globally over 200 billion is given in R&D incentives to fund businesses, but the application process is cumbersome because you got to wait till the end of your tax year to apply and try to remember. It's prone to frustrating audits because when the government audits you, they want to see all the documentation, and then you got to go back and dig it all through. And then the third thing is it takes a long time to get the money, like 16 months, because you got to wait for your tax year to finish, then apply. Like in Canada, it's SHRED, and in the US, it's US R&D tax credits. You got to wait to apply, and then wait for the government to process it. And we raise this money to automate and streamline the process so companies can get more money faster for less time and audit risk. So effectively, like for every month or quarter you incur in R&D expenses, we have the ability to give you the cash now, so you don't wait 16 months, and we're doing it proactively, so you're not trying to remember at year end. And in the event of an audit, we've captured everything proactively from your system, stitching your technical and financial data, so everything is in one place. My t-shirt, actually, this is our company t-shirt. We've had it for a while. It says, "I love it when you talk data to me."
That's great.
Right.
We love that t-shirt.
Yeah, we give it away at all our traction conferences, and I'll go through some of the slides, and I'll walk through the journey of how traction came about, and all of this other stuff. But yeah, so that's our not philosophy, but that's how we go by things. It's like, I love it when you talk data to me. So me and my co-founder are both engineers. We went to university together. After finishing engineering, he got into Johnson & Johnson's engineering leadership program, and and then did a startup that failed, then went and studied accounting, and ended up at a big four accounting firm in their R&D tax group. And I, after engineering, went and worked in product and growth at a number of startups, like you can see here. And then Alex called me and said, "Hey, this stuff is broken. Let's fix it." And we got together. I jumped at the opportunity because we were best friends to do this together. But anyway, you're starting a company. You have an idea. Walking back to that journey, right? I'm going to walk through Automatically's journey, actually, because it failed. And Alex and I sort of had Boast and Automatically as two ideas sort of running in parallelish. Like when we started Boast 2012 as more like, okay, let's automate this industry. But really, we didn't have the money, right? So we're like, let's do it manually. And then we had another idea, which was Alex's. Both were Alex's ideas. The second idea was, hey, customer service agents are inundated. Let's automate it. So, whenever a customer query comes in, you can respond like a real human. So those are two ideas. I'll walk through Automatically's journey, and then like along the way, I'll talk about Boast, and I'll talk about some of the other companies. So because like Automatically is close to my heart, because we took it to MVP and then we shut it down, right? But like the bottom line here is this: everyone's looking for a silver bullet, right? Hotmail grew 12 million users in 18 months by adding this in the bottom of your email. I don't know, I'm old, so early Hotmail users like see like, hey, get your free email at Hotmail in the signature, and went viral. And like Airbnb jump-started growth by cross-posting to Craigslist. Like all their listings would go on Craigslist, and Craigslist didn't have an API, so they were like doing this janky thing to get Airbnb posting. So people are always looking for a silver bullet. And I love this Elon Musk quote. And basically what he's saying is reason from first principles rather than analogy. Because what works for one business may not work for you. What works for one scenario may not work for you. Just because somebody else is like partying all day long in the middle of COVID doesn't mean that if you go and do the same thing, you will not get COVID. That sort of thing, right? Like analogies don't work when it comes to reason with data, break it down to first principles. And that's the way to do it. So then how do you define success? Really, this seems like so basic and simple, but this is the fundamental truth, right? Success means, you get customers, they pay for it, right? So engagement is defined by you get customers who love your offering, they pay for it, and you keep growing that cycle. It's simple, and I'll break it down everything from there, right? So you're starting out, your goal is to build an MVP and all of this. But a lot of people get focused on growth, early on. Oh, I want to grow. I want to get like X million in revenue, X million users, all of this stuff. The issue is you got to analyze before you do something. You got to analyze and say, am I ready to do it or not, right? And there's two key elements here. One is you're not ready to grow when you have no ideal customer. And what that means is one kind of person coming to your product to get one kind of job done. If whatever you're selling, if you're selling a solution for something, and if I don't come to you to get that job done, then I'm not your ideal customer, right? So like, I'll give you actually an example from Speakeasy. Speakeasy was supposed to be an AI for sales tool. It was built on, it was a calling app. And what it did, it was before the call, it summarized everything you needed to prepare for the call. During the call, it told you, like, gave you a playbook. And after the call, it automatically updated your CRM and told you who you should follow up with and when. The issue there was, when we launched, we got tens of thousands of users. And we were spending so much money on ads, getting tens of thousands of users. All those users, when I profiled them, were just using the product to make calls, free calls. But we were a calling app for salespeople. It was funded by Salesforce and Bessemer, and that was the vision. But you got all kinds of people, and then that turned into a vanity metric, because now you got tens of thousands of people using your app to make free phone calls, and you build on top of something like Twilio, and you have like COGS, your expenses. So you're paying all this money for free users who are not even your ideal customers, right? And like Bernie Sanders group was using it, pastors were using it, taxi people were using it, discharge, like free call, like let's just call over the world, right? Kind of thing. And that was a lesson. And the exec team was like, oh no, you can't shut them down, because you know what, the metrics look good. Remember something, build a company to serve a mission for a customer, right? Like, who is your customer? What is the value you're bringing to them? If you're building a company to some vanity metric, and vanity metric is I raised funding, is vanity metric. If you're like, oh, investors are going to love it, we'll get tens of thousands of users and then raise the next round and the raise round, eventually that trick is going to fail, right? It's going to fail because you've raised it on the value that you got one kind of customer or one product, but you got all kinds of people. So make sure you have an ideal customer. So one kind of customer coming to your product to get a specific kind of job. And the second thing is you have poor retention. People don't keep coming back to your product anytime they want to get that job done. Those are like the two fundamental things. And I've been giving this presentation for a very long time. It's like the fundamentals of business haven't changed, right? So then, okay, so let's say you have that. So what do you do, right? Like, okay, my philosophy always is, let's set an aggressive goal, because if you don't have a goal, you can't work backwards from it. It can't just be like some like, okay, let's just go along and right. It has to be a concrete goal. I want to get X pilots by this month. And when you do those kinds of things, what it does is it creates a data-driven discipline. I need to get to 250,000 in revenue in 3 months. It's a very aggressive number. What do I need to have in place? How many calls I need to make? How many ads I need to run? What do I need to do in SEO? Like, you got to do a whole bunch of things, look at the data, and then work backwards from it for today. And then you got to say, okay, you know what? How am I going to grow this step over step each day to get to that number, right? So setting goals is the most important thing, making sure it's concrete, right? Like, what is the objective? What is the key result? Like, I want to get to 250,000 revenue. It's like, write it on the wall, stare at it every day, and your action should be, every action you take should be like, is it going to improve this goal? If it's not, don't do it. And when you're starting out, you just have one probably goal, right? Immediately. When you're scaling and whatnot, you have like so many goals. Each department has their own objective and key result, right? The second thing, and I can't stress this enough, and I try to say this with the Speakeasy incident that, blew through $6 million and had all kinds of customers using it, and like, start by serving one audience exceptionally well with one product or one service. Focus is the most important thing for founders. You might get distracted, like, I have the opportunity to sell into enterprise. I have the opportunity to do this and that. And just focus. Because if you do not focus, you will fail. I guarantee you. Like, or you may succeed somehow, but your chances of failing are much higher, right? Trying to do 10 things, right? If you try to be 10 things to 10 different people, you're nothing to anybody. But if you nail one thing really well, you'll kill it. So I'll give you how I meant to embed it in here, but I was super busy. So I'm going to walk through how I've done it. Like, I'm just going to pull an example here. Okay. Give me a second. You guys have some time, right?
Yes, we have like, say, just check my time. we have like next 20 minutes for going through your presentation, then questions,
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll
Hope is not a sales strategy, my man. I'm just joking. I'm trying to find this is a stupid joke, but like
I know it is a technical strategy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let me find this thing. I always have. Yeah. Okay. So this is I'm gonna try to make this large, and so I'll give you an example here how we focused, how we screwed up. So I gave you the Speakeasy example, all kinds of people doing all kinds of things, and then what ended up happening at Speakeasy. This was 2015, December 2015. I told the board and the other founders that, dude, we gotta make this product paid. We can't make it free. And everyone was flipping out. Oh, the metrics are going to go to a chart. Everyone's going to cancel. I'm like, 100% everyone's going to cancel. But the people that stick around are going to be people who really care about your product. So we made it paid $10 a month. 300 people stuck around. They were all salespeople. And that was a very, very awesome thing we did. And then everything we built was for those salespeople. And we started targeting them appropriately, because look at it focused, right? If you know I'm selling to a salesperson in a startup, then you know what blogs they read. You can research what magazines they read, who influences them, and you have this whole sphere around them that you can go and dominate. But if your target market is also like a salesperson in a SaaS startup versus a salesperson in a large enterprise versus a salesperson in a retail store, how are you going to get? It just becomes very hard to dominate that one person's mind share. So anyway, we made that expensive lesson learning kind of thing because there's multiple forces, and eventually the company ran out of money, and because of no focus, we ran out of money and didn't have enough traction to raise the next round of funding, right? And so focus is very, very, very important. And I took 2 months break and then came back to Boast 2017. We rebranded Boast from Boast Capital to Boast.AI, focused on building software to automate R&D tax credits, and then grew from that day. We launched at SaaStr and 4 to 8 figures in revenue, and then finally raised when we were not looking to raise. I'll share that story later. But I'm going to just give you an example from Automatically. This is what we did, and I'll tell you how we failed because of no focus. Or we thought we had focus, but we didn't. So Automatically, the premise was customer service agents are inundated. What if you could build a bot that responded like a real human, right? Great. And so then we started doing customer development, as every early founder that's building an MVP should do. Build a list of your customers, reach out to them, your customers that you think, reach out to them and validate the market, right? We before we even did that, we're like, can we even build this? So we ran a small test on Twitter on JetBlue. JetBlue is a large enterprise. It's an airline. They got lots of complaints. And we saw that we could create responses like a real human, right? Like, boom. So we're like, oh my God, this is 90% accuracy. Let me go. So the first segments we picked were like customer service in the enterprise technology world and customer service in the CPG world, right? So what I typically do is I write 3 things here, and you can use a CRM like HubSpot is free, or even Google Sheets is fine. And I put like, what is the market size? Like I just put a score, which is like 1 to 5. What is the market size? What is their propensity to pay? What is the ease of access? So it's like, okay, market size for enterprise tech, SaaS tech at that time was like, I just guessed, right? Hypothesis 3, CPG, like we know all the companies from like Pepsi to JetBlue, propensity to pay, both can pay. And then maybe it should have been 5. And then ease of access, it's easier to get into technology companies than it is to get into CPG. So I mined 1,000 contacts from, I used a tool like Mechanical Turk. Today, there's a lot of other tools. Like a Mechanical Turk is cheap. I didn't have money. We didn't have money. Mechanical Turk is like you put a script on Amazon, Mechanical Turk, and you go to sleep and you say, this is the kind of person you want. And all these workers from third world countries, I guess, that build this list for you. So when you wake up, it's done, right? And it's funny, through that exercise, I met our data miner who's been working with us now since 2014, right? He's been working with us. He's based in India, and he did such a good job. But then he also emailed me. I don't know how he found of course he was mining emails. So he found my email. He's like, why don't I just work with you directly to do this? So great. We struck up a relationship and we still work together since 6 years. Anyway, so came up with 1,000 contacts each. And you got to, like, when I say reasoning with data, you got to email them, right? You can use a tool like Mixmax, Mailshake. What else? I think it's Streak. There's a bunch of tools to do mail merge, meaning you send one personalized. Yeah. You use send one personalized email, 2-3 days later, you send it again. You can personalize it, and the burden is not doing it one by one. So I created a message saying this: hey, I'm a founder, I'm an entrepreneur looking to automate the frustrations of customer service agents. I'm not looking to sell you anything, but you're an expert in the space. Do you think you can make 15 minutes for a call for some advice? And I would just monitor how many of them like clicked and converted, right? Like how many people would respond. And like for every, like, it was very low on the CPG side. It was a little higher on the enterprise tech side. But the bottom line is I sent so many of these emails that I had like hundreds of conversations, mostly in large enterprises. And constant theme there was like, hey man, my agents are inundated and they're manually responding. And I would never probe with my solution. I'm like, we're thinking about building a solution in this space. Have you ever been in a situation where your agents are overwhelmed and they're getting so many queries that they can't respond, and it goes to the next day, then people like ping your company's CEO and abuse them? It's like, this happens every day, right? And then I'm like, so how is that? He's like, oh, how does that impact other things in your business? Oh, it impacts morale. It destroys like team environment. It's just like, and then it kills the brand and like all of this stuff. And then all this stress comes on me because I'm the head of customer service. So I said, if you had a magic wand, how would you solve this? They're like, if we had a magic wand, I don't know, when a customer query would come in, it would respond automatically, like literally just telling our name and the product we're building. But this was 2013, 14, right? That time, nobody knew intercom and all these other things. So we had so much validation. And then I asked the question, if we build this, would you pilot it with us? And that is the key thing when you have that call, because it gives you your validation for early beta customers, right? So I check mark, okay, you know what, beta. And the key thing from there is to continuously build relationships with them. Like immediately after the call, you got to send a thank you email. Like run it like sales. Like, hey, Hamid, thanks for giving me 15 minutes of your time. This is what I learned from your call, and this is what we're going to build. I'll send you an update when we're closer to a beta. And then like every time there's a progress, like Kickstarter, I send an email to them. It just keeps good hygiene. Because what happens is if you did these pilot calls, these sort of customer validation calls today, and it's February 23rd or 24th, and you don't email them till you build your MVP 2 months later, they're going to forget you. So like immediately what I do is thank them, add them on LinkedIn, follow them on Twitter, maybe, and then send them a recap email right away. So it's like, okay, we've sort of like, you know, I care, I'm thankful to them. And then I like try to socialize with their LinkedIn posts and Twitter posts and whatnot. So we stay in touch. And then every few weeks, give a quick update, right? If you can afford, you don't also send them like something, I don't know, right?
But
I
really love, sorry for interrupting you. What I really love about this is that this is not big data, because nowadays we are in the age of big data. And when people think about data and data science, they think about thousands and hundreds of thousands of leads to nurture them and see what it happens to them. You actually started with 1,000 contacts and you have legit results out of that data.
Yeah, exactly, right? You know, honestly, don't get caught up in the buzzwords of big data, ML, AI. Customers, I'll tell you this at the end what happened, because it's interesting, and we'll go from there, because otherwise, you know, it doesn't convey the story properly. So ignore the big data, ignore the buzzwords, focus on the fundamentals, right? Like focus on like that first principles. So anyway, we talked to hundreds of them. They were describing our solution, and we kept in touch with them, followed them on LinkedIn, followed them on Twitter, we'd engage with their social. So we're top of mind, right, regularly. And then every time there's a major update, we tell them, you know, this, like, thanks for advice, or we ask them for advice. So we had this stuff. And then at the end of that exercise, what happened was we're building what we're not going to build a customer service solution. We wanted to build one app to on top of their customer service solution that could respond like a real human, because it would be stupid. Like your goal with what is an MVP? It's the one feature thing that gets that use case, right? What is the job the customer is trying to do? One use case, one feature that gets that job done, not 100 things, right? So anyway, then we're like, okay, we had the summary of all the customer service tools they used, and mostly was Oracle, kind of large enterprisey. So we started reaching out to Oracle and everyone, and they're like, great idea, guys, but you can't get it in our marketplace for like 6-8 months, maybe 12 months. We're like, oh my God, this is the death of a startup, right? Because you got to do like security review and all of this stuff. This is like the complete death, right? Like we're screwed. So what were the options? Build your own customer service tool or find another solution that had an open marketplace. I live in San Francisco, and Zendesk was very popular at the time. So I ran to Zendesk. They were doing like a meetup. I ran to the meetup, cornered their API guy, pitched them, and he's like, yeah, you can totally launch it on a marketplace. Now, here's what we did. We launched it on their marketplace within weeks. We got thousands of people signing up. Still, the company failed. Any guesses of why that happened, despite doing all this customer development?
No focus.
Yeah, anyone who wants to convey that? So here's what happened. We did the right thing. We followed this metrics. We did customer development and everything. But if you look at it, your ideal customer profile, we did all of this on this ideal customer profile. When we said we can't launch on Oracle and we found Zendesk, we didn't really do customer development on Zendesk customers base. So what was happening, thousands of people were signing up, and it was a bot-like intercom in this right chat bar or right sidebar. A pop-up would happen, and it would automatically respond like a real human. And like people were complaining, like, dude, you're sending garbage. You're sending garbage. Stop it. Stop it. Then we made it edit or approve rather than automatically responding, or like it pops up. Hey, you have this query. This is the response, edit or approve. And people were like, man, it's only like 30-40% 30-40% accurate. I got to rewrite the whole response. Is wasting my time and adding more stress. What's the key lesson there? That's the big data lesson there. The lesson there is JetBlue and like all these other big brands, NBC and whatnot, they have volumes of data. So when you run algorithms on it, it is, you have enough data to respond with accuracy. So that's lesson one. Zendesk customers in 2013-14 were small businesses, like less than 50 people. They didn't have enough customer service data. So you couldn't respond like a real human intelligently. It was creating gibberish. The issue is, had we done customer development on Zendesk customers, we said, okay, we're going to go from Oracle to this, we're going to launch it. If we did proper customer development on Zendesk, we'd realize that their customers don't have enough data for us to respond like a real human. And we would have come up with another solution. We wasted all this time and that sort of, hurry, like jumping from one to the other without doing proper, like ideally I would have done the same exercise for like small businesses versus enterprise. And that's what caused us to shut that venture. But there's a few lessons here. One is know your customer, like nail it. You can't say, like, if you go and tell an investor or anybody, oh, I know my customer, they're salespeople. Are you sure they're salespeople? Are they salespeople where? In enterprise companies, in enterprise CPG companies? Are they salespeople in SMBs, SMB brick and mortar, SMB SaaS? And even one step further, are they salespeople in like SMB SaaS that are seed stage companies, Series A, Series? Like, you gotta be very, very, very specific. Like, who is the title? What industry? What company size? Very, very, very specific, or else, like, it becomes very, very hard. You're chasing, right? So that's what happened here. The second learning there was customers want an outcome. So between Speakeasy and Automatically, customers want an outcome. They don't give a shit if you're running AI or fancy tools. What they want is an outcome. I came to get a job done, get me that job done. So one of the key things we did at Boast was, it's like, as founders, what do you de-risk first when you bootstrap? How can I get customers? Can I keep customers? So we spend all our time, even if it's like not all software and there's humans in the loop doing it manually, but get customers an outcome. Because now I cannot afford telling people that, oh, we have this fancy dashboards and everything, but you got audited by the government and they denied your money, right? Customers want a check at Boast. Customers wanted clean responses at Automatically, and customers wanted streamlined sales calls at Speakeasy. The issue was we got so caught up in technology in both places that we forgot the outcome, forgot the customer we were serving and the outcome they were looking for. And those two things. So like, focus on the customer, have conviction about that customer, and make sure you get them that outcome in any means possible, right? Eventually, once you raise money, then you can de-risk. So right now, my biggest focus at Boast is building out more of the dev team and de-risking technology, because I know we can get customers and we can keep customers any means possible.
So I
Right.
guess your point is that any data adventure needs to be towards given metrics and KPIs that are connected to your business, actually.
Connected to your customer. Exactly. So very roundabout long story here, but rather than just blaring through slides, I thought I wanted to genuinely share like the things I was doing, like email and every little nitty gritty that I did, right? Like testing scripts. Yeah. This I'm gonna zip. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
And how has it changed over time that your company has grown?
Actually, can you guys hear me? My sound is going. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I thought I got a warning saying it's unstable.
No, we lost your video now. But
yeah, I deliberately shut it off because it was giving me a warning that my band I have signal issues. But you can see my screen share, right?
No, that one is gone too.
Oh,
I think
okay.
you stopped sharing that one.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah.
Be back in business.
Yeah, we're back in business. So serve one audience exceptionally well. I went through all of this. Who's your customers, titles, every little thing, right? Where do they eat, breathe, drink, sleep? Because it's going to inform your strategy. Your customer you're serving informs your company strategy. How we do things today is the same thing. Everything is by the customer. Look at it. Our customer at Boast is the CEO of a technology company. Our mission is to help innovative companies become successful. We serve that mission through our product, but founders and CEOs of innovative companies need more than just government funding or non-dilutive capital. They need they need advice on growth and strategy and scaling and hiring and building products and building teams. And we said, you know what? If our mission is to help innovative companies become successful and we have passion for that mission, then let's serve that mission beyond our product. And that's why we started Traction. So Traction is a nonprofit community, and we've got 95,000 subscribers or so. And we host weekly webinars. We host monthly dinners, which stopped right now. We host quarterly founder-funder matchmaking events, and we host an annual conference. And it's founded by Boast.AI and Launch Academy. Very rarely will we do a presentation on R&D credits or non-dilutive, like any of that. It's mostly providing value, because if you're passionate about your customers, about that mission to serve your customer, all your actions will transcend from there. And literally, we got to over 10 million in revenue just by having a massive community and 3 or 4 salespeople. We don't have marketing. We're just adding marketing after this fundraise and whatnot. And that's a key lesson there is, is this focus is how do you make your customer successful? If you have a mission and you have passion for your mission, it transcends companies, right? Like passion transcends. So I'll tell you, the first time we did a conference, it wasn't with Launch Academy. It was with another person. That person ran away with money, with all our money, and he locked us out of our social accounts and everything. And I was dejected and everything else. So they can steal your idea, but they can't steal your passion. But we had so much passion for this mission that we partnered with Launch Academy. Ray's good friend, he's like a brother, and we've sort of built a massive community. And the guy who like stole our money and did all this stuff, he never did like conferences again, right? Passion transcends. So that's very important. Like whatever you're doing, make sure you have passion for it. If it's just like, oh, this is a great idea, I want to make some money, you're going to come at it like, oh, transactional, right? And then what happens is you have like enthusiasm for the first hit. The second time you have a difficulty, you're shaky. The third time you have a big catastrophe like this, where somebody runs away with $250,000, you're just going to shut down and move on, right? But if you have passion, you will power through for that mission. And that is the key thing, having passion, key to building long-term enduring businesses. This one I talked about, validate your idea by charging for it. Depending, like if you're in a B2C space, it may be hard to do. But if you're in a B2B space, like you can charge for a pilot, right? Because they're interested. When people pay for stuff, especially the larger the company, they're invested, they're serious. And this is kind of like, you can do a consulting model like we did at Boast, which is like, hey, we'll get you this outcome. You give us the money, and people will pay for consulting because they know they'll get an outcome, but they're hesitant to pay for software when the software is not well known. So you can use consulting to validate the idea and to get customers and figure out all the manual points and then automate it. So that's effectively our style, right? Now this again comes back to focus. Like when someone like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, like two of the top folks, say focus. So what he's saying here is one of the key things is to nail a single distribution channel, and you have a great business. If you don't nail one and you do 100 things, you're doomed, right? You're gonna fail. You're finished. And what I'm saying here is this. So at Speakeasy, I don't know if you guys know Hiten Shah, was the founder of Kissmetrics. He was one of our advisors. And I was doing a whole bunch of things like I'm doing here, like running product and marketing and partnerships and everything. And like Hiten Shah was an advisor. He came in and he's like, hey, show me your marketing plan. Like, what are you guys doing? And I show him something like this. And he's like, bro, this is like the marketing shit list. He's like, stop it. He's like, immediately stop it. He's like, what's the one thing that's working? And I said, email outreach. He's like, remove everything here. And he's like, give me the metrics around email outreach. How many emails you're sending? What's the open rate? What's the response rate? He's like, jam more data, jam more data, jam more data, do more of what's working. And I knew this in the back of my head that that's important, but you're really like, when you have investors and other people, you want to show that you're doing more. It's not about doing more things. It's not about being a mile wide and an inch deep. It's about being an inch wide and a mile deep. Like if you can own a channel, you will kill it, right? And that's what we did at Boast. Like we got to all of this. We have no marketing person. We had 3 developers effectively, and mostly customer success people, because you got to deal with the IRS, communicate with the CRA. You got to do all this manual stuff. And what are they doing? The customer success people, they're collecting data. Like how do you build an end-to-end AI company? You don't have data on day one. You need to do this work manually, figure out the workflows manually, ingest the data, and eventually you'll have enough data that you're like, okay, now machine learning will fly. And that's what we're getting into right now. But like from a channel perspective, it was sales, but it was community-driven sales. 43% of our sales, and if I combine it with like channel partners, is 60% of our new logos last year came from referrals. What does that tell you? Like it's all starting here, right? It's all starting here and then it's going to here, right? So we have sales and community-led sales is what we did. And we focused. And, we're not a conference company, but today traction is up there with like Startup Grind and SaaStr. We have like pretty much similar size subscriber bases. Unintentional, but we focused on the mission for the community. And like Jason Lemkin's a mentor. Derek, Startup Grind CEO, he's a good friend, and he's also a customer because he has a software company. So that's the thing, right? Like passion for that mission, because we all have a common mission, transcends. Relationships transcend companies. So focus. You can't have passion and all this stuff without focusing. So I run the same exercise. You brainstorm a few channels, you try it out, you see what works, and you double down on what's working. So maybe it's emails. Maybe it's like you start hosting events and you see what works and what doesn't, and you double down. I have a few more minutes. The 5th thing is like get users to an aha moment right away. So what that means is when users come into your product, obviously you sold them some promise. They should complete the core action they came to your product for without any friction, right? And so what that means is, I'll give you an example with today's relevance. Clubhouse, I joined Clubhouse. Everyone's hearing about Clubhouse. It's like you're on the radio. It's like a voice chat app, like I guess multiplayer voice chat app. It's like being on a radio show, right? And it's fun. But I never wanted to sign up. Finally, people forced me because they're inviting me to speak. I signed up. As soon as I signed up, I kid you not, I ended up in a chat room with a bunch of friends I hadn't met in a long time. And they were in different countries. They didn't even know each other. And saying, oh, welcome to Clubhouse, Lloyd. I'm like, what? You guys know each other? They're like, no, Clubhouse all pulled us in together. And then we're catching up. Before I know it, I'm like stuck in a deep conversation. And that is great onboarding. Great onboarding should enable users to complete the core action they came to your product for right away without any friction. And people told me, sign up for Clubhouse. I didn't even have a core action. I just got forced. So I joined, and imagine how I was delighted. I'm like, wow, what the hell? Like, this guy's in Saudi Arabia. This guy's in San Francisco. This guy's in India. Like, what is going on, right? I was impressed. And that, to me, is like, a good aha moment. Because people always talk about signing up. Oh, I need to acquire customers. I need to acquire customers. And they talk about retention. You need to retain, retain, retain. But between signing up and becoming a long-term retained customer is onboarding. Onboarding is a key step. Like, for example, if you invite people at your door and they come into your house and it's all garbage in your house, they're not going to stay, they're going to leave, right? And nobody's there to greet them. And like they come in and there's a pile of trash there. They're like, forget this, I'm out, right? It's the same thing. Your product is your house, and your onboarding, your front end and your onboarding is a key, right, to building that relationship with them. It's a welcome. So you got to like really wow them, right? I gave some old examples here. Like I said, this is very old slides of mine. I'm going to make it relevant for the next time. We just put Clubhouse onboarding there. The third thing is make your product sticky. And this is where data comes into. The more I use your product, the better it gets. The more I use your product, the more I were to leave. I would lose if I were to leave. In the case of AI companies, the more value I can unlock for you, the more data I have, right? I can get you more R&D tax credits. I can get you other financing options for cheaper and whatnot, right? I can unlock more benefits for you the more you use the product, or I would lose a lot if I left. So that's key. Again, old examples.
Running out of time, Lloyd.
Yeah. Is it a 45 minute or was it an hour? It's an hour.
It's an hour, but we want to allocate.
Yeah. I'm done. I'm literally done. Give me like 30 seconds.
I like that slide though. This one was good.
This one, yeah. So this one is like test at every step. Break down your customer journey into people are signing up, people are getting onboarded, people are coming back, they're referring, and they're paying me. And like the quick summary here, this is from Dave McClure's R metrics. But the quick summary here is that you can't say I have shitty retention if 5 people are signing up, right? You can't say I have shitty retention if like nobody is going through the onboarding stuff, right? Go and figure out statistically significant data. So if 1,000 people are coming to your website and nobody is signing up, something wrong with your landing page, right? Or like the messaging is completely off. If thousands of people are signing up, but nobody is sticking around for more than 30 days or a few weeks, then something wrong here, right? They don't know how to use your product. So those are the things you need to figure out with data. This is the quick summary. Pick an aggressive goal, focus on one type of customer, getting one kind of value, coming over and over again through one channel, and charge for it, and get users to an aha moment right away, and make your product sticky. And the last thing I would tell you is this literally helped us raise money when we weren't raising money. We weren't raising, like as bootstrap founders now to raise money in the middle of a pandemic. We were able to close 23 million USD or 30 million Canadian, followed by 100 million. And don't focus on funding, focus on building a great product or business or service that people want to use and pay for. The funding will follow. And I kid you not, that is the reality of the situation. Having been at 4 funded companies and failed, and then this one, which is, I would say, on the path to success.
Thank you. Fantastic. Learned a lot. So we're now opening up the questions. Anyone who has questions, please feel free to type it in the question part or section, or just ask your question. Hopefully your question will be more towards how to use data and the science, and of course, clarifying any points from Lloyd's presentation. I have a couple of questions to start with, and then we can pass it to everyone else. So you told us about that now that you're bigger and you have more data, you have started to look at machine learning for your data problems. Has the ownership of data and the data science changed over time in your company, or is the same type, same person, same role, same function?
So the way I look at product teams is this. We drag things along with a very small team. Fundamentally, for any human, everything is a human problem, right? Like if you look at it, the mark of a leader, or the job of a leader, is to build, inspire, and motivate a team to deliver. Deliver is the lagging indicator of the former. And most people, they think, oh, I just got to hire people to deliver. No, then you may as well run a sweatshop or a factory, right? You got to motivate people, and you got to invest in their growth. Because if you treat them right and you are invested in their growth, they'll treat your business right and grow your business, right? So the first thing is that. So your job as a leader, and I don't want to use swear language, but this is funny, is to unfuck your team, right? So that means is like to unscrew the situation and see. Right now, so far we're bootstrapped. We had a small team. Now the way I see it is, once you hit like 7 to 10 people on a team, it's time to split that team, right? So the way you would look at it is like, we have a core product that is automating R&D tax credits, and it's enabling our CS team to file R&D tax credits. But now it's like, okay, we also have customers who engage with the product. If we focus, again, same thing, right? You could keep doing customer validation again. Do we need a product for customers to log in? We do, but it's very basic. They only see updates, and customers like, I want to check, I don't want to log in. I want to check, I don't want to log in. If you make me log in, that means something's wrong. I'm not getting my money. Why is Boast asking me to log in? Am I not going to get my money? So that's the thing, right? But now I'm like, okay, you know what, maybe there's an opportunity here. Can we do a customer facing dashboard? And like, now we got to go through a whole validation again. Now, when that team hits like 7 to 10 people, that's like a second team. Then you may have like a architecture and security strategy, because now you're growing so long, the same team can't handle it. You can't dump it all. So maybe you fork it and you have another team of 7 to 10 people, where it's like one product person, one engineering manager, and like 7, 8 developers. And that team is just dealing with architecture and security. And then maybe you're like, okay, you know what, now I want to go enterprise. You can't have your SMB team do enterprise. So you would hire another product manager and work it. So that's how to build and scale a large company. And my mentors, like folks like, Twilio CEO, who was on our webinar last week, and whatnot, that's how they've advised me. It's like, try to keep that startup mentality in your company by creating small teams and self-containing it. Anytime it's getting larger, your discipline is, how can we fork it, and how can we fork the team and create another team? In sales, it's easy, right? Like, you have a whole country, probably you have a sales manager, and you have 4 reps spread across like US, Canada. Now, it's not physically, when I say the mark of a leader is to build and motivate a team, inspire them to deliver. I personally can't be invested in the growth of more than 7, 8 people, right? Like personally, like, I love you, I'm in your mind, right? So then you can't have more than 7, 8 direct reports. You got to fork it. So then you do like, okay, we'll split Canada into like 3 regions. We'll split US into 3 regions. We have a manager. And as soon as that manager starts hitting bandwidth, then you split it again. So at what point you should start selling an idea or with MVP? So Tony says that. Honestly, Tony, because I've been in the B2B space, every company we've sold at the idea stage, right? Like, we've sold stuff at the idea stage. And it's important. And when I say that, the exercise I was going through with Automatically was, I wasn't selling on the first call. Like, sales is like dating. You don't go to a bar and tell somebody, can I get married to you, right? It's like you optimize for the number. Everything is progressive. So my whole exercise of saying, validating the customer is actually you're selling. You're building a relationship with them. You reach out to 1,000 people. They say they like the idea. They basically confirm that the problem you're solving is one they face, and they echo, like, if I had a magic wand, this is how I would solve it. They echo that you're on the right path to the solution, and then you hook them. Would you be interested in doing a beta with us? And they say yes, and then you bring them along that journey. Do 100 customer discovery first, then start selling. Love the magic wand example. We use it as well. Honestly, yeah, that's pretty much it, right? And I like stretch it always to the max, like to thousands, right? Because what I'm trying to do is say, oh, you know what? If I'm cold emailing people, and this can turn into a channel, if I email thousands, then I'll just have thousands in the pipeline. And then I just keep them updated, and like all these beta customers will become paid. So I just stretch that customer validation to the max, is like 10x that, right? But yeah, Tony, you're on the right path there.
Mhm.
I mean, you're saying the right thing. I mean, that is it. I mean, I didn't invent it, like others have, like, so.
Any other questions?
Lloyd, you talked about vanity metrics and how they're shit. I think too many startup founders focus on vanity metrics, and we see too many examples in the media all the time. So when it comes to product market fit, what are you looking at each stage of that process, from acquiring trial customers to getting them into the product usage? What are the key data points kind of throughout that process that you're looking at to determine product market fit?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a great talk, like if you get a chance, our YouTube channel or like just go to Boast.AI/blog. You'll see a session by I did with Rahul Vora. He's the founder of Superhuman, and it's a very detailed talk in just getting to product market fit. There's different schools of thought in product market fit. For me, product market fit ultimately boils down to, can you get customers? Meaning, is your message resonating? Meaning, as you cold email and outreach unaffiliated customers, not your mother, your father, your friends, your relatives, unaffiliated customers, when you cold outreach and reach out to them, are they signing up? Is the message resonating? And the second thing is, can you keep them? Like, are they sticking around? Are they continuing along? Those are the three things. Like, can I acquire customers, and can I retain them? Right. That's the fundamental of product market fit. And you can put whatever message on there. Now Rahul takes it a step further for product companies, and he's like, hey, survey your customers and see what percentage of them would be highly disappointed if you didn't exist, if you shut down the service, and then focus on improving based on that feedback. And if that percentage is more than 50%, you have product market fit, right? He's doing it more and more data driven, but like, there's a part of it where it's also gut, right? Like, people are paying for it, they're not canceling, and then you got to constantly survey the customers. It's like, Groove HQ's founder does this really well. You sign up for Groove HQ, you get an email saying, hey, this is the founder of Groove. I'd love to learn what problem you're trying to solve. Like, just shoot me just respond to this email. And continuously in the early days, talking to your customers who signed up, right? Like, hey, what is the value? What are you getting? And that's why I like Superhuman. What they've done is they do this concierge onboarding. And sometimes you got to do that, right? Like, building a self-service product is very different than building an enterprise product. Enterprise product, you onboard them through and through. But like what Rahul has done at Superhuman is brought the enterprise level of onboarding to the self-service model. You do everything yourself, but they give you all this coaching and training and everything else. So ultimately you got to see, if I sign 100 customers and any customer, and let's say like 10 customers, and SaaS is very sort of like, SaaS VCs are really stringent, right? Like, if you have, I think the number is something like best in class have like negative churn, right? Negative churn. But how do you get to negative churn? You don't get negative churn on day one. So what you need to do is, I threw those metrics on those slides there, those R metrics, right? You gotta set leading indicators and lagging indicators. Again, everything starts with your goal. So if your goal is to have a retained user, you need to have the characteristics of a retained user mapped out, right? You need to have the characteristic of retained. What is the characteristic of retained user? Meaning, how many actions they perform daily. So I like Speakeasy, one of the characteristics of a retained user was they were automatically updating Salesforce. Like, they'd hit log call, the call would get logged. And if people would do that, they would keep coming back over and over again. So you need to map out, like, in the perfect world, a customer that loves us, what are the core actions they would do on a daily, monthly, depending on your product, right? Sometimes, like with us, people don't need to log in, but like they need to give us their data and they need to hop on certain calls. So it's like, what is the characteristics of that user, number one, of a retained user, and then all the steps behind, right? Like, that means they signed up for the product. What is the core action they need to complete? If they didn't complete that core action, you have a problem. So let me tell you this: you got 1,000 people sign up for your product, and 5 people complete the core action. What do you think is going to happen? It's a vanity metric. Even if they signed up and paid, even if it's $1 or $10, your job is to get people to that core action right away, right? But if somebody paid $5 for your product, I'll tell you, like, there's a product I paid for, and it's so cheap that I forget to cancel it, but I don't use it. I kid you not, like, I've just been busy doing so many things as a founder, heads in different places. But as soon as the team spreads out, the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to say, I want to cancel that product, but I know I have back-to-back calls and I'm going to forget. And it's so cheap. But what will I do the first thing that I have some bandwidth? I'm going to look through my spend and cancel the shit that I don't use, right? So that is the key thing, is like, your job is not to sell customers. Your job is to deliver customers an outcome. If customers are not getting an outcome, you got to see, like, work backwards from the outcome. Is what are the steps they need to take in your product to get to that outcome? And that is a key thing. A long roundabout answer, but like, work from the characteristics of a retained user and work it back all the way to like what needs to happen at each step, what actions they need to take to be retained, and what actions they need to take to get onboarded. If you sign a customer and you don't have great onboarding, then freaking call them, say, like, email them, hey, our first step is to get on a call to walk you through onboarding, and handhold them like Superhuman does. But do not say somebody's going to sign up and then hope they become retained. That is the recipe to get doomed, because then you'll show, like, I got thousands of signups, but like 5 people onboarded. And if 5 people onboarded, then chances are you fail. Okay, I'm going to stop there. We top at the hour here.
Thank you so much. It's always great listening to you, Lloyd. I think we're running out of time. So everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. Just to remind you, you can go to, Boast.AI's website and get familiar with the openings they have. And of course, we hope to see you again on March 11th. We're going to have Michael from Shopify, and he's going to tell us about retention. Maybe a follow-up to the conversation we had here. Thanks so much again for joining us, and thanks, Lloyd.